Dean Horn with Softing is my guest today. We're going to talk a little bit about testing today. Dean, thanks very much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, great to be here.
If I can jump right in, on testing and the testing market, there are a few players in cable testing and in the certification business in particular. So can you tell me first why Softing got into cable testing to begin with?
Yeah, great question. And the answer is that we talked to a lot of people and we found a lot of pain in the industry. So what did we find? We found strong views that testers were unnecessarily expensive, people were being forced into too many upgrades, and customer support was diminishing. Softing felt like those issues were addressable. And on top of that, we came up with an innovative approach that has changed the way people test cables. Guess what all this kind of sounds like? It's very similar to cord cutting. As in, just a few years ago, everyone had cable TV from the big guys. So, why did so many people start moving away from the big cable TV guys? Same story. It's expensive, you have forced upgrades, and customer support is always an issue. But switching isn't always an easy decision. Think about the process you went through to make the decision to cut the cord. You are definitely not going to consider switching if you lost your favorite channels, right? Same with our customers. But instead of favorite channels, what our potential customers want to know is, do we test to the same global standards as everyone else? And do we have cable vendor approvals for cable warranties? And the answer is yes. We test to the same global standards and we have approval letters from over 30 cable vendors that have all used, tested, and approved Softing testers, and they all back Softing when you're testing their cables for cable warranties. So the basics are covered.
So it sounds like, with Softing, to use the analogy, you get your favorite channels. A question that might come up though is, how is this streaming option or the cord cutting better than what I know with, my big cable guy? Does Softing have more to bring? Do you bring more? What else do you bring to the table that provides sort of the value proposition that many have found with cord cutting?
Right. So with Softing, this is the fun part. So earlier I said we had something that has changed the way people test cables, right? Softing has something built in that no other platform has. So what is that? It's graphical screens at both ends of the cable. Softing calls this the dual control system. So what's that? It's two screens. It's displays at both ends of the cable. It's identical testers at both ends of the cable, complete with full processors. And I'll give you some examples of how dual control system changes the way you test. So here's the first example. Sometimes you have to test cable jobs all by yourself, right? You're a one-man testing team. You have to connect the local tester to one end of the cable. Then you have to walk to the other end of the cable and connect the remote tester. You're all by yourself, walking back and forth. No problem so far. But what happens when a cable fails and you're at the remote? Meaning you're at the blind remote side with no display. You have no troubleshooting ability. You have no information except for a red fail on a blind remote. You have one option. You have to walk back to the other end of the cable and perform diagnostics. And if the problem is a bad wire punched down on the remote side, now you need to walk back to the remote side and fix the problem. That's a lot of walking. That's not efficient. With the dual control system, all of that extra walking is gone. Since you have a full graphical display at both ends of the cable instead of just a red fail light on one side, you can see the wire map, you can see the test results, you can troubleshoot and fix the problem right there, even on the remote side. That's efficient. So that's an example of how small jobs or one-man testing jobs are more efficient with the dual control system. So how about if you have a really big testing job? Maybe you have 1,000 cables and a tight deadline. Sometimes the cable certification part of the project is critical path to the entire job site. What if you could have 3 teams running routes at the same time? With dual control system, guess what? You can take 2 sets of testers, so that's a total of 4 units, and you can reconfigure 3 testers to re-identify as remotes. Now you have 3 remotes running around the building or campus while 1 local tester remains at the main distribution frame. That would take 6 testers and 6 people when you have blind remotes to have the same amount of productivity. So that's an example of how dual control system makes large jobs more productive. So how about another example? So you have a new tech on the job. How are you coaching and developing your new cable techs? With dual control system, you can put the new tech at the remote end, and now she sees everything you see because she also has a display at the remote end. As you test and troubleshoot and talk to your new tech, she's not running blind. She gets to see firsthand everything you see as you're explaining it. Now you're developing qualified techs on the job using real world experience. At the same time, she's helping you get jobs done. So this is an example of how dual control system helps you with on-the-job employee development. So the benefits of control system don't just stop with small jobs and large jobs and on-the-job training. The owner of the company is going to love this one. So with dual control system, it's not just displays at both ends of the cable. You also have full computer processors at both ends of the cable. These are identical testing units. Guess what processors on each end of the cable gives you? The ability to have firmware upgrades. So why is that important? If you've ever been forced to upgrade your tester, that is buy a new when you felt, man, I've just had this tester for a few years, that's the power of firmware upgrades. With other solutions, you're forced to pay for entire hardware upgrades. That's a financial pain, it's a training pain, it's a time pain, it just feels wrong. With dual control system, you get upgradability and continual rollouts and new features. Business owners love this feature. This is a huge life cycle cost savings. So dual control system is a business changer, more efficient on small jobs, more productive on big jobs. Training on the job builds quality techs, lower life cycle costs with a firmware upgradable platform. This changes the way you certify cables. So next you might say, well, how hard is it to learn how to use? Maybe you're a pro at using your current tester. Makes sense. You've been using it for years. The answer, you can actually see for yourself how easy these testers are to pick up and just start using. We have a demo schedule posted all the time on our website. Just Google this, Softing Training on Demand. And you can see that certifying cables is as easy as setting up a project, selecting a standard, selecting a cable type, and clicking auto test. What I've heard our customers say is, I just watched a 20-minute YouTube video, picked up the tester, walked out into the field, and started certifying. Switching and using the Softing tester is very easy. So here's the bottom line. If you're looking at cutting the cord or moving away from the big guys, Softing tests to the same global standards, and we have over 30 cable vendor approvals. We offer the only platform with a dual control system, which changes the way you test cables with these benefits. It increases your efficiency on small projects, increases production on large projects, facilitates on-the-job training for new techs, and makes the platform nearly future-proof with a built-in mechanism to keep the testers evergreen. And finally, it's easy to pick up a Softing tester and just start using it. We have YouTube videos or sit in on one of our training classes. The classes are always running. So what's the next step? Just Google this, Softing Training on Demand, and sit in on a class and see for yourself. Softing is changing the way you test cables.
Wow, Dean, thanks very much for that explanation. So Googling Softing Training on Demand is a good way for folks to get in touch with the organization, find out more about what you offer and the ease of use that it sounds like you're providing with your equipment.
Right. Yeah, so you can also Google NetExpert XG, Google WireXpert, or you can just look us up at the website itnetworks.softing.com/US.
Excellent. Dean, thanks again for your time today. Really appreciate this information. I'm sure our audience appreciates it as well.
All right. Thanks, Patrick.